Hi, I'm Jessie.
Hi, and I'm Joel.
And welcome to Youth Gist. On today's show, we go into another taboo topic for you, and it is sexual immorality, another part of it. And we're talking about having children outside of wedlock. Now, this topic has been a little bit dodgy depending on what country you're from. In Africa, we know that with all our cultures and traditions, it can be seen as bringing shame unto the family.
True.
But in the modern times that we live in, lots of people have children outside of wedlock. So we want to delve into the different levels of the Christianity part of it.
And as always doing the show, remember that we always have a guest with us who's going to be helping us talk more about this topic. And our guest for today is Chloe Lenchangas, who's also a radio presenter. And we're going to be taking it to the streets as well to hear what people have to say. So now just tell me, what this topic that we're talking about is very sensitive at the same time, because there are people who are going through this kind of situation whereby we have a female who has a child, the father's gone, and they can't get into another relationship.
I mean, I don't want to always assume that the father is gone, because I feel like men in our age are a little bit more responsible. Back in the day, fathers were a little more absent. Even if they sent money home, it was a thing like the emotional connection was missing.
Okay.
Yeah. But I do feel like the strain is more on the female, because she's the one who's more visible with the pregnancy. That's always been my thing. That it shows on the woman. She's pregnant, you can see it. The child usually stays with the mother. And in that case, that's when you know, there's more judgment, especially in a Christian environment. When you go to church, when you go outside, people are looking at you like, those who know you especially, where is your husband?
But I'm just looking at today, looking at the generation we're living in, I'm still seeing the same thing that our fathers did. We're actually doing it worse now.
What do you mean our fathers did?
As you're saying that back in the days, we had a lot of absent fathers. Right? We don't know why they did that. They'll come up 10 years later, they'll tell you all the stories that they have.
The line was long at ShopRite.
You understand? So now we're coming back now. We have young guys now, you know the lifestyle that the youth is living. People just want to sleep around, and they know the consequences of sleeping around, but they'll just like, no, you're doing it for the moment. Babies are born, and they get up and they leave. You find that a guy who's at the age of 25 has like 3-4 kids with different women. And he can't support all of them. So for me, it's just the same thing. Our fathers, us, it just kept in the bloodline. It's going.
I think what's important is also to realize society, the role that it plays. In the day and age that we live in, if you watch TV, it's all over the place. No matter what show you're watching, a lot of single people are out there. And I also feel like there's been a culture of glorifying single mothers. You know, in the beginning it was you're being grateful for your mother working so hard and pushing and being able to accomplish a lot of things on her own. But now people have kind of got into this thing of, I can be a single mother without a husband, which is also where you wonder, is it a good thing now, or have we created a culture where women feel like they don't need a man and are becoming men themselves?
It's a 50-50 life we're living. That's why women say they want 50-50.
Yes.
But now what about the child? Every child deserves to be, home with the mother and the father. But now the thing is that now, women would say that it was my first child, it was a mistake, I didn't plan this to happen, and the father's no longer there. So it's her, it's the child. Some have two, and they're very young. But now the problem is finding another guy who's going to take care of these children.
I feel like later on in the show we can delve more into that, into whether, men are okay with it. And I kind of do think men are okay with it. But I think it's also...
Hold on, before you move on, just with what you say, would you date a guy who has a kid or two?
From my views, at my age, I feel like if I don't have a child, I don't need to date someone who has a child. But I don't think it's wrong. It depends. If I was 30, I wouldn't mind. But now at my age, I wouldn't. It's a lot of responsibility, and relationships are hard. And it also depends on your maturity. Can you handle a child? I know personally I cannot handle children. So I know for me it's a thing that I've already decided that I can't date a person with a child because I'm not ready. And I don't want to come into a child's life and be an influence and not be a good influence. That's another part. But if I was 30 and I'm grown and I'm at a place where I'm more comfortable with myself, I'm okay with that. But that's where things are debatable. I have friends who have children now, and they can handle that. I would be like hyperventilating, crying with the child, who stare at each other and cry together. Like it's complicated. It's complicated. But this is what we want to talk about. There are various situations. It's not always one way. It's not always a okay, we were in a relationship and, you know, we had no intentions of getting married. Things happen. You know, I think in the society that we're growing up in now, we realize that things aren't as black as white as, let me say, the elders would think. Because back in the day, I mean, if you came with a child into my family and you're not married, it was judged upon. I'm a child who was born out of wedlock. So I know what my mother went through, and she was old. You know, she was very old. She was 45. But the point is that it's still seen as a shame, and especially, again, on the woman. You know, the women carry the cross.
But it goes back to what you said, that women fall pregnant, they carry the child. And in that period of 9 months, they're the ones who have the responsibility of carrying the life of the child, while the father is wherever, doing whatever, probably making a second child. You know, but back to the question that I asked you, with me, dating someone with a child, it's a bit tricky. It's, I don't know. Honestly speaking, I don't know. Because it's very hard. Thinking about it, here's a woman who has a child. I think it would depend how old is the child. Because if the child is aware,
Why does it depend on the child?
if the child is aware that this individual is not my father, the child is going to grow up, and when the child grows up, questions are going to arise. Where's my father? Who's my father? You're not my father.
Okay, but
and
what if the father is active in the life?
That's another problem. That means there's a third party to a relationship that me and her have. But we're going to talk more about this, and you're going to hear what our guest has to say, and you're going to get involved with the people in the streets. They're going to tell us as well what they think about this. But we'll talk more about this conversation when we come back from the break. Welcome back to Youth Gist, and you're still with me, Joel and Jesse. And we're here with our guest, Xolile Ntshangase. How are you?
Thank you.
Would you just tell the people at home a little bit about yourself?
Okay, my name is Xolile Ntshangase. I'm originally from KZN, but I stay here in Pretoria. Yeah, I'm actually a single parent. I got pregnant a while back while I was doing my matric, but lucky enough, I got a chance to go do my varsity studies, and yeah, right now everything is cool.
So I wanted to ask you before, just get right into it. You got pregnant early.
Yeah.
What are the difficulties of that?
The difficulties of being pregnant as a teenager, first thing first, it's the support, especially from the father's side,
Okay.
The baby's father. You know, in most cases, as we're young and all those kind of things, the boys or the fathers, because they're also young, so they find it hard to support the lady, the pregnant lady. So that's the problem, because they mostly depend on the family to support for them. But as time goes on, you know, they then realize which will be must. Yeah, they grow.
The level of maturity, because I feel like as a woman you'll mature quicker.
Yes.
Because like I was telling Joel earlier, it's you that's showing, it's the baby that's going to stay with you most of the time.
Yeah.
So you had to grow up more quicker than a man would. And how was your family's reaction to your early pregnancy?
Oh my God, you don't want to know.
No, tell us.
Okay, I honestly thought I was gonna die. I remember I did not tell them that I was pregnant until my sister, because my sister is my high school teacher, is my language teacher. So I did not concentrate in class, and she was like, you know what, I'm taking you to a doctor because right now you just messed up. And I was like, no, please don't, I'm fine, I'll be fine. She was like, I'm taking you to a doctor, we're going. So when I got there, the doctor actually told me that you're actually pregnant.
Oh, wow.
You'll give birth on the, you know, on the 10th of March. And I was like, oh my God, please tell me, okay, this is not happening. And she was so disappointed. So the unfortunate part is that my mom had to know. I actually had two families at the time, because I had my mom's family and my other family.
Okay.
So my mom had to find out, and she almost killed me. I've never been beaten that way. It was so bad.
Did you do the traditional thing of going to the man's family?
So what happened is that we had to follow some, you know, some cultural things. So we went there. The unfortunate part, it turned out I didn't know that my family actually had some clashes with that family.
Whoa.
So now I was caught in the know. So when we got there, the guy's family was like, if you ever say this is your child, you dead. We're no longer going to support you, because he was in varsity already and I was doing my matric, I remember.
Okay.
So lucky enough, okay, they came back to us and they told us that, okay, so if you clearly saying this is our baby, but we'll see with the baby if he's ours or not.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, it's fine. But I was convinced it's their baby. It's his baby.
Yeah.
He's not any other way out. And I also felt like he actually did not have a choice. His brothers had to tell him, he had to take it from his brothers because they were actually the ones who were supporting him.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I just want to ask you this, based on what you said, right? That the guy, you'd find that they're too young to support the children. They get money to support the children from their families. So now, could that be the reason why you'd see that a lot of guys, they tend to walk out of being the father at their young age? Because now there is no longer that financial support from the family, whatever the reason might be, and now he sees that, look, I can't support this child anymore. I just can't do this. Then he just turns and runs.
Okay. In most cases, the reason why the teenage fathers run away from supporting the babes because they cannot support them. Honestly speaking, they can't. Themselves, they are being supported by their own families.
Parents.
So what's the point of me agreeing that this is my baby while I'll be bringing conflict in my family? You know? So the reason why in most cases they're like, I'm not gonna agree with it, this one is mine, is because they need support themselves.
I like that because you're not just shooting the guys down like, hey, you see, Jess, there are people out
No,
there actually
I mean,
reason.
They
reason.
My thing with what Joel is saying is that I believe the same way women don't have the option to say, oh, I can't afford. I mean, you were in high school.
Yes.
You're not working.
Yeah.
Where must the money for Pampers and formula come from? That should also be his stress. The same way a woman would be stressed out, a man shouldn't have an option to leave. The man shouldn't say, oh, okay, well, I'm in varsity, I'm not working, there's a baby, I can't afford it, disappear.
That's
It's
why
not
guys.
fair.
That's why guys drop out of school and start working at the young
That's
age
fine.
because they're
You do
trying
what
to
you need
make.
to do.
They're trying to get money to support the kids.
But I think when it comes to a kid, we all have to make some sacrifices.
Yes.
For instance, my family themselves, they to say to me, okay, fine, you're pregnant, we agree with that. There's nothing we can do with that. But we'll try and support you. Just you yourself, try to have something yourself, Goban, to build a brighter and a greater future for you now and your baby.
So in your situation, how did the father of your child then support you financially? I'm not even talking about like emotionally, but financially supporting the child. How did he work around that?
From there, I was like, okay, fine, if they do not want the baby. Or if they're like, we'll just stay with the baby. Okay, fine, the baby got born. I gave birth to a baby boy.
Okay.
So what happened then, we took the baby to the father's house. So from there, they agreed. That was their baby. So from there, they started that relationship, the baby and the daddy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So now emotionally, you know, being young and being out of wedlock and with all the stresses, how did that emotionally affect you?
I was very, very emotionally hurt, very, very much hurt. And the other thing is that I was doing my matric, and my plans were that I wanted to start varsity the following year. So the unfortunate part, I couldn't do it because of the pregnancy. But there's one thing I liked about it, this whole thing, though. My family, especially my sister, she supported me in every way.
Okay.
You know, she was there for me in those kind of times, and I think that's the reason why I had that guts to start afresh and, you know, forget about all the bad things that happened and just live my life
So
again.
a strong support system.
That's it.
And I want to ask you, before you had your son, I mean, growing up as a girl, I don't know, you know, people are different. I have an idea of like when I want to have a child, and as I grew, it changed, you know. And then you also think of when I want to get married, and it's usually, you know, marriage, children.
Yeah.
But now, before you got married, what were your ideals? You know, did you want to have a child out of wedlock? Were you okay with marriage? Did you want to get married?
I've always wanted to have my firstborn, you know, in marriage. You know, it was one good thing. Ekaya, they've always taught us about that. You must get married first, and then you commit yourself to adultery. So it was a mistake.
Yeah.
Though I accepted and I love my child, but I agree it was a mistake. It happened, and I'm not planning to do it again.
Okay.
So let me ask you this: through the times that you had, whereby you are going through the clashes of the family, with him now saying, "Look, you can't say this is my child," because all those things.
Yeah.
Did you ever, at some point, think of saying, no, I'm going to get rid of this child. I can't go through this. This is going to mess up my life. I'm not going to be able to do 1, 2, 3. I'm going to put my family into shame.
I never thought of that. You know why? There's something I know about guys. You might not want this baby now, but I know in a few years' time, you'll come back to me and say that one is mine. So that's what I had. I was like, okay, fine, this is the situation right now, but it's not going to be like this forever. So for now, let me just be strong and keep my baby and grow my baby until he comes back to me, and we live.
So
I just had that.
what are your opinions, you know, what are your beliefs now on children outside of wedlock? Because I heard you say that you plan on having your next child in marriage.
I don't think it's a good idea to have a baby, you know, with someone who you're not married to. Because it's very, very tough when life moves on. Remember, sometimes if you're not married with someone, there might be a possibility that he might leave you, as it happened with me. So the problem we get into is that the moment you meet someone, you tell him that I actually have a 5-year-old baby, and he'll be like, yo, serious? I'm like, yeah, I have a 5. And now they start doubting. You see?
Yeah.
So they're like, Mara, I wanted to marry you. Sometimes all those
The
thoughts.
traditional things of she already has a child.
Yeah, so
it
it's
still
the point.
affects you today,
It-
the
it
decisions
does.
that you made back then.
It does.
It's not really, okay, I'm a guy. I don't know if I'm speaking for other guys out there, but what I'm saying is that it's not really about the fact of what are people going to say, traditional things. It's just the thing of, look, life is a journey, and it's a journey that you have to take, right?
Yes.
And there are just, when you're taking the journey, you need that partner, someone who's going to walk hand in hand with you.
Yes.
And there are just some things that you guys need to experience together.
Okay.
And for me personally, I feel like when it comes to pregnancy and having a child, that experience is something that both of you need to experience. It
You
needs
want
to
it
be
to
your
be fresh.
first time
Yeah.
experience together. So if she already has a child, she's been through that. I haven't had a child. So when she's pregnant, this is going to be like, this is going to be that hype of saying, this is my first child. I want to do everything for this child. And with her, it will be like, it's my second one.
So
You get me?
I want to ask you on what he's saying.
Okay.
Do you have those difficulties, like now between the 5 years of having a child?
Okay.
Have you had any experiences where someone doesn't want to date you because you have a child?
No, honestly, I've never had that difficulty. You know, people accept me. And in most cases, people cannot actually even see that I have a child unless I tell them that I
Yeah.
have a child.
Yeah.
So what actually happens in most cases, I try to explain everything. You know what? I have a 5-year-old baby son. So if you know, you love me for who I am. If you love me, you also have to love my baby. You know, and that's just how it is. And lucky enough for me, I've always had guys who will be like, okay, fine, it's fine.
But don't you get worried that you're going to meet this guy who's going to say, yes, I'm going to love you and your child. Then let's say you decide to have another child with him. And now he's going to have a child. And now there'll be that thing of, this is my child. This is not my child. You understand? And children grow up, and you know, in a household, I've seen this in the community, whereby you play with kids and be like, don't come tell me that. That's not my father. He's your father. You can't hit me. You're not my father. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do understand.
And that now will bring clashes between you now and your husband now. Like, yo, the kids now. This is what's happening.
Which is the reason why in our tradition, my culture, when a girl has a baby, you know, out of marriage, you leave your baby at home and you continue with your marriage.
So would you do
But-
that? Are
Actually,
you
it's
traditional enough?
It's
to
tough,
do
I know,
that?
but that's just how things work out, you know.
So would
it's
you?
tough.
Would you be
Not
okay?
really forgetting my baby, mind you. I wouldn't just forget
Yeah,
about
I'm what I'm getting is that because I mean, back in the day, the grandparents anyway raised the
With
children. So
the-
it's just that modern days now we can more afford to live with our parents while they're younger. Because usually, you know, the parents would go off and work and then leave with the grandparents.
Yeah.
But now what I'm saying is, are you saying you would get married, have your new family, and are you okay with leaving your child to be raised?
it's not a good thing. It's tough. It's one tough thing. But
You're not
for
sure.
my marriage, I will do it.
Consequences.
It's consequences. Yeah.
Coming, but once they're there, you have to deal with them, JC. And we're saying going back to the times of our grandfathers and parents, taking it way, way back, right? Taking it way, way back. We're looking at Mary and Joseph, right? Mary fell pregnant, Virgin Mary. Joseph was a stepfather. That's how I view it. I don't know how people
It's
view
not
it at
the
home.
same-
I understand,
It's not
but
the
I don't
same
know. I don't know how Joseph did it.
It's not like she had sex with God.
Yes, let's leave sex out. But the fact is, she fell pregnant
not the
and she
same
gave
thing,
birth
though.
to a son, and Joseph was not the father.
Yes, but that's for me, that's a level of maturity, that's a level of Christianity, that he understood what the gift was. It's not like she was adulterous or went outside of her marriage. An angel came and said, this baby is coming, this is Jesus. He understood it as well. So I don't know.
What I'm saying is that now, let me link this now back to what we're doing now. Now there is a huge difference, because now for a child to be born, there is no longer angel comes, touch, there's a baby. There is now
Which is I'm like,
intercourse
why
that
is
happens. You understand?
Yes.
There is now intercourse that happens. And the challenge that we face is, guys, that if I take this child in and I take her in, the baby father will always come around. And there is drama now that is caused. That's one of the challenges that guys would when you say you have a child, they run away. Like, okay, you have a child, I'm going to run away.
And then in most cases, those are single guys. You know, single guys would say, I mean, those guys who actually do not have babies, can
Yes.
they'll be like, when you say, you know how to have a child, she'll be like, oh, you know, I'm cool. But then when it comes to a guy who's been in the very same situation like you, a guy who comes to you and say, I have 2 baby girls. Are you ready for that? You know, you start thinking about, you put yourself in his shoes, and he also put himself in my shoes. You know, so we start thinking about this whole thing, and you know, it's
Is this, what you're saying now, is it when, are you saying that if you didn't have a child, you would date a guy who has a child?
That's
Or
what I
are you
wanted to
saying
ask.
that since you have a child, the guys who are more mature to accept your situation is guys who also have children?
That's
So
exactly
both
what
of
I'm
you are
saying.
basically in the same boat. So
yes.
he's having difficulties finding a single woman who doesn't have a kid to marry him and raise children that are not her own, and
Yeah.
vice versa. So you'd be like, okay, I have children, you have children.
Let's
sit
just
down,
do it.
Let's make a family.
That's what I'm
Are
saying.
you currently in a relationship?
Yes.
Not married, but yes, I am in a relationship.
Okay, and would you, if he had children, be willing and open to join your 2 families?
Yeah, I will.
Is he the type of man who's accepting of the situation that, you know, you have a son?
Yes,
Does he
he
have
really did. Yes, he does have a son. So it's actually a good thing.
There's so much more to be spoken about. So when we come back, we're going off to the streets right now to get more opinions from people and find out what their opinions are on having children outside of wedlock. When we come back, we'll bring you more on the Christian aspect and what the Bible says. So we picked up a few scriptures and stuff. So see you when we get back.
We were Christians, and both of us have Christian families, and here we are going against everything we believed in. What scared me the most was telling my mom and what she would think. Sorry. I couldn't tell my mom. I was in the doctor's office with my boyfriend, and the nurse came in and said it was positive, and I kind of looked at her and said, there's no way. I was in disbelief. I was in shock. Just, this couldn't be happening to me right now. And I turned to JP and just said, now what? We sat in the lobby for probably an hour. I was sobbing. It was just shame and guilt of what we have done and now what we're gonna have to do. Abortion was the very first instant thought when she said it's positive. I remember we came in and I sat in the chair and just said, Mom, I need to talk to you. And I was sorry. I was sobbing. I was crying too hard. I remember my mom just hugging me, saying, what is it? What is it? And I couldn't say it. And then I said, I'm pregnant. And I'm sorry. I just kept saying, I'm so sorry. all I could say. I remember my mom just sat there and hugged me and said it's going to be okay. And I remember one of the first question that she asked me after I said I'm pregnant was, "Did you get an abortion?" And I said no. And she said, "Praise Jesus." I was dreading telling my dad that I was pregnant. You know, I'm daddy's girl and I'm pregnant with my boyfriend. I didn't want to tell him at all. I remember going to my mom and saying, "I want you to tell him because I can't. He will never forgive me." That's what I kept thinking. He's never going to forgive me. I remember my mom calling him and telling him, and he walked through the door and I gave him a hug. And said I was sorry. And he just didn't really say anything. He hugged me and it made me feel good. After telling both of our parents was over, reality set in of you have a baby inside you. I remember sitting in my bed with my mom and my dad and JP. At first it was sobbing and then it was silent, just what do we do? And I was so sorry, and I wanted them to help me with direction of what to do. And that seemed to go through my mind every day was, I need my mom and my dad. I need to ask them again, and I need their support every day. And I was very lucky to have my mom be there for me and help me with decisions, and just to help me feel that it was okay the way I was feeling, not to feel guilt, not to feel condemned. The Lord's mercies are new every day, and we are lucky to have God's grace. I thanked God for that. I wasn't scared to pray or to ask forgiveness, and I felt it was very comforting to pray and just say, "Lord, you know, please forgive me. You knew this was coming, and you know, you work in miraculous ways, and I can't believe this is happening to me." It's been really tough. We've had our good times and our very hard times, but it has made us stronger as a family and brought us closer, and we're committed to one another as husband and wife, as parents to Landon. We're happy with our family, and it's definitely not been easy, but we love each other, and that's what family's about.
Welcome back. Remember that every opinion that we heard is not from us here at RTM on News Gist. It's what the people have to say. So now I just want to ask you, Olile, with everything that we've been talking about, right? You've been through so much. You've experienced this firsthand. Okay? There are people out there who are new to this and they're thinking all these things, that there's pressure, I have to cut my dreams, my family, you know. So how would you then build those people up spiritually?
You know, one thing I can say to everyone right there is that, you know, mistakes happen. You know, we do, sometimes we make mistakes not realizing that we're actually doing or making a mistake. But one thing I can tell you for sure is that once you realize that there is a mistake, just get up and go out there, you know, relive your life again, and just try not to forget, because, you know, your past is always part of your future, but just try to make something out of it, you know, something positive out of it, and just live your dream.
On that note, I want to take it to the Bible, and we got a few verses just on, you know, children outside of wedlock, and I want to start in the Old Testament, picking up on what you said. Hebrews 10 verse 26 says, "For if we go on sinning deliberately, after receiving the knowledge of the truth, there no longer remains sacrifice of sins, which is what you're saying, that once you have now realized that this is a mistake and what I've done is I've committed a sin, to repent. Another one on children outside of wedlock. This is also from the Old Testament, and it is Deuteronomy 23 verse 2. No one born of forbidden union may enter the assembly of the Lord, even to the 10th generation. None of his descendants may enter the assembly of the Lord. Which seems like, now, I don't want to say a curse. it seems like more of the Lord saying, you have gone against my commandments. And this is another part where we talk about being reborn, repenting, and finding your way to Jesus. And now, I take it to the New Testament, where Jesus says, in Matthew 19 verse 14, but the Lord said, let the little children come to me and do not hinder them, for to such belongs the kingdom. Because I was thinking, I was born outside of wedlock. I mean, when I read that in the Old Testament, I was like, does that mean they go to hell because of the sins of my parents?
You're not.
And especially ones that, you have repented, such as you have done, and you found a new way to live, and you're working around what happened.
Yeah.
That's important. To say that Jesus came and he died for us. And our sins are washed off and everything has started.
Yeah.
So I just want to ask
Wait,
before we continue. Let me just
before
ask
we
this.
finish. Acts 22 verse 16 says, this is the part that I was talking about, where he says, and now why do you wait? Rise and be baptized and wash your sins away, calling on his name.
I just want to ask you, did you have any difficulties in church when you were young and you had a child out of wedlock? Were you
During the time of your
during the time of
pregnancy?
pregnancy when the child was born?
When I was pregnant, I couldn't even go to church, because I was pregnant. I had to respect the fact that this child, I never got any blessings from my family. I can have the baby now.
Yeah.
So I was actually raised one way of respecting them and showing that I respect you. Okay, fine, I made a mistake, so I'll just not go to church for now because I'm pregnant. But once the baby is delivered, it's just, come back to church.
Because
That is the only.
I think what you're saying is also very important, respecting the church. But I think it's also important to realize that God he sees you everywhere. And I like the fact that you're saying you stayed away from church as respect to your family and respect to those who do go to church, instead of hiding it in shame. Because your relationship with God is what needs to be repaired, to get forgiveness. Not that I'm going to church because I don't want people to see that I'm a sinner.
Yeah, it is
At the
not
end of the
about
day, we're
that.
all sinners. But it's about being truthful to your truth.
To your truth.
Yes.
Because now, with so many women out there who are going through the very same thing that we're talking about, what we're saying is that, yes, we have sinned. We have had sex before marriage, which is a sin. And we know, it's stated in the Bible that we shouldn't. But we get taken away by flesh so many times that we end up in such situations. And with our guest presenter, as she has said that she's been through that, and it doesn't mean that when you're going through that situation, God says, look, you're not my child anymore.
Yeah.
You're out the way. There is still a hope. Because I believe that throughout everything that you've been through, you survived through his grace. I could say that. You believed in him. You put your faith in him. You said, God, look, I know I've done wrong. I've sinned. And this is a very difficult time, but please see me through. And look at you today.
And whatever situation that you're actually facing, know that God always has plans for you. There's this one script I like from the Bible. It's in Jeremiah. For I know the plans I have for you.
Yes.
That's one script that kept me going, that keeps me, right now I'm here because of that script.
Yeah.
I know it's never the end of the world. I always have to, to wake up and go out there and make it happen. And now it's not just about me, but it's about me and my baby boy.
Yes. And what is your advice to people who are, let's say, in a similar situation, whether they're pregnant or they're having, even if you're older, if you're 25 or 27, and you're having a child outside of wedlock, what's your advice to people?
What I can say is that, just do not let any situation come over you. You should know that there's always something great in whatever circumstances that you're facing. So what I can say currently is that just get up, just go out there and make it happen. I never stopped dreaming of being a presenter because I was pregnant. But what I said to myself, I have to make it happen. And right now, that's what I'm doing.
So her information is on the screen. So if you want to talk to her, you can just get the details and you can communicate with her. And thank you very much for being with us. I am still Joel.
And I'm Jessie. And closing off, I just wanted to let you know that The topic again was about having children outside of wedlock. We appreciate Xolile for coming and joining us and giving us her opinion and her wisdom. And Corinthians says, to the unmarried and the widows, I say that it is good for them to remain single as I am. But if you cannot exercise self-control, thou should marry. For it is better to marry than to burn with passion. Till next time, I'm Jessie.
Thank you very much. Love you. God bless.